dozens of accusations against Donald Trump. One of them was litigated. You have a court finding against him. Isn't that significant more weight behind accusations against Donald Trump than there even is against Graham Platner? How can one be disqualifying but not both?
Exactly.
And the American people have voted. I think
okay.
No,
well, then you should have.
I think that's what Graham Platner is arguing, is that the Maine voters voted. And that's what Democrats said. Actually, no, that's not good enough.
The
Free Beacon was reporting all this
are
months
trolling
ago.
people on X and saying, if you voted for Platner, you voted for a rapist, which in fairness to the Platner voters, they didn't know about this accusation when they voted for him in the primary. There's just something very tone deaf when you've just rallied around Trump on every single thing to be doing this on the Republican account.
But I hope. So finally, we have someone doing what I have been calling for the longest time, which is calling out Republicans and their hypocrisy for the double standard that it is that they have when it comes to Graham Platner, but no energy whatsoever when it comes to Donald Trump. In this clip, we see independent Brad Polumbo go hard on Republicans for the double standard that it is that they're showing when it comes to the two individuals. As usual, let's watch the clip in full, and I want you guys to make sure you stay to the end because I want to give you guys some of my thoughts. Let's get into it.
Breaking news tonight, Graham Platner is suspending his bid for Maine Senate, clearing the way for Democrats to choose a new candidate in one of the most consequential races that could decide who controls the chamber in November. Platner made the announcement just days after facing accusations of rape, which he denies.
We are suspending campaign operations. This is incredibly difficult because I know that some will think it's an admission of guilt, and it most certainly is not. We're not doing it because of the allegations. We're doing it because of the structures that are being taken away from us by those in power. And I also feel an immense amount of responsibility to everyone who has worked so hard to get us to where we are.
Platner had been under immense pressure to drop out as his initial support crumbled. We're told behind the scenes Platner worked with staffers to navigate that exit. Maine's Democratic Party says it's approved a plan to hold a nominating convention to replace Platner, and several candidates are already jockeying to try to fill that spot. Brad Polumbo joins us at the table. Several candidates hitting the airwaves tonight. They've already declared. But what do you make of how Graham Platner exited and how long it took him to do
Well, I just got my little violin out for him. You got to feel so bad. He's playing the victim. It was really probably AIPAC that made him get a Nazi tattoo, lie about it for years. It was probably AIPAC that made him allegedly physically abuse a Republican woman he used today. And it was probably AIPAC or the establishment or something that made this latest accusation. I think he's disgraceful. I genuinely think that's one of the worst, I don't even know, announcement videos I've ever seen. No accountability, no reflection. Just a weird combination of backing away, but also denying the allegation, not even standing on business. This whole thing is such a black eye for the Democratic Party writ large, though. It's not just him. They're doing the right thing eventually. But where was this energy when Lindsay Fifield came forward? Yes, she's a Republican operative. Doesn't mean she couldn't be a victim. She had contemporaneous corroboration that Graham Platner, that she said at the time, physically abused her and locked her in a room. That should have been enough for the Believe Women Democrats. Zoran didn't withdraw the endorsement, didn't withdraw support. Bernie didn't. What are we doing here?
Yeah, look, I think that for some Democrats, for sure, it was enough. And that's what the civil war in the party was for a while there. And now the Bernie Sanderses of the world, the Ro Khannas, they have egg on their face, quite literally tonight. Because also there's a lack of contrition, for sure. He denies the allegations. He doesn't even really address the women that have come forward. Actually, I shouldn't say doesn't really. He did not address them in this 11-minute video.
He called them liars, basically, because he said everything's false.
Yes.
Yeah, he did. And, you know, while he was being supported through all the things that Brad was talking about, Democrats like Ro Khanna and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and on and on and on and on, kept saying that, oh, he's gotten over the rough patch in his life. You know, he's apologized, Ro Khanna. He's on a redemption. He'll bring redemption to our nation. So they were willing to overlook or believe all of his explanations up until now. The only thing that changed is that he's no longer politically viable. His poll numbers went down to the point where it wasn't politically palatable to say that this redemption tour was going to be good for America anymore. I think you're right. He's never actually taken accountability for any of these things. The Democrats knew 98% of the things we knew about Graham Platner, we knew before the Democrats voted in the primary in Maine, and they still voted for him.
98% is a lot. Look, there were lots of Democrats who had some concerns. I definitely got yelled at for my concerns. So I want to be clear about that. I have to say, I'm not going to accept lectures from people who support Donald Trump, who was credibly accused by 13 women of sexual assault for listening to women. Okay. Other people can talk about this, but people who stand up for Trump every day as he's faced those assaults on any side should not be throwing egg at the Democratic Party. It is unfortunate. It is unfortunate that some people were willing to look past some of these things. But the Democratic Party has done something different than the Republican Party, which is they have, let me finish.
Sure.
They are finally acting against a candidate who is credibly accused. He's not found guilty, but credibly accused of assault. And that is very different than what has happened under Donald Trump's presidency and the Republican Party.
I was just going to ask, honestly, Scott, Peter, maybe you can answer this. As an independent, I really feel like everyone's abandoned any pretense of character in politics. But I do agree Republicans have been particularly egregious at that. And when we have this serious corroborated allegation against Graham Platner, but you have dozens of accusations against Donald Trump, one of them was litigated, you have a court finding against him, isn't that significant more weight behind accusations against Donald Trump than there even is against Graham Platner? How can one be disqualifying but not both?
Well, I mean, the president would say there isn't serious corroboration on these accusations against him.
There was a judgment.
That's what he would
There was a
argue.
judgment by a jury, a federal jury.
Yeah, and the person who accused him couldn't even remember when it happened.
Well,
okay, that's up to the jury.
That's the argument.
That's the jury.
At the same time, Trump identified the person who accused him as his ex-wife in those proceedings. But what do you say? I mean, you said what Trump would say. What would you say to the question that Brad had?
Look, my view is this: if there is serious allegations, if there's serious evidence or corroboration,
I mean,
everybody has to take responsibility.
To Brad's point, those are serious allegations.
Okay,
Those are serious
how are the
allegations.
two
And then
women
if you
versus
add
13?
to the look, I don't want to. It's not a. I think it is just a fair question that if you're going to be throwing the book at Graham Platner, not just about what the women have accused him of, but also about his own statements about women and rape, then you should at the very least have a look at Donald Trump. He's on video saying that he could grab women by their genitals.
Have we not played that video 15,000 times?
That's exactly the point. That's exactly the
And
point.
the American people have voted. I think,
Okay,
no,
well, then you should have
I think
You have a
that's what
judgment.
Graham Platner is arguing, is that the Maine voters voted. And that's what Democrats said.
But he's
Actually,
not-
no, that's
the
not good
pressure
enough.
was this is
You
no
are not a
longer
good enough candidate to
electorally
hold this
No,
job, and that's
that
a
is
different
not true.
position.
He was running even.
But
for God's
let me be
sake.
very clear
It's not
about
like
what
he was
happened.
losing.
There were
No, he's
both,
losing now. Believe
Jenny
Well, he's losing
Rassicot and
now.
Lindsay Fifield. Jenny Rassicot and Lindsay Fifield. They both said, and some of this is going back several months. This guy is a creep. Do not trust him. He's bad.
There are
As they
13
were not
women who said
believed.
they were
and
assaulted by
we were talking
Trump.
about Graham
I
Platner
don't-
because he dropped out tonight. We've been talking about Donald Trump for the past 10
but you guys
No,
all-
I'm
the
so
flight
sorry.
that
I'm
question
so
is brought
sorry.
up.
My point
You
is,
do not get to throw stones at a Democratic Party when you have stood
I'm
by
talking
Donald
about
Trump.
the media right now. I'm talking about the media and the fact that these women were not believed. It got to the point where Lindsay Fifield had to say he took off a condom while he was having sex with me. She had to leave. Give
It
those
is
details.
horrible. It is
You
horrible
have-
that
you have
had to
Jenny
happen.
Rassicot having
You
to
are
say,
100%
he
right. It is
raped me.
horrible.
So,
He
Peter,
raped me.
It is
That
horrible.
was
Can't
what
we
it
talk
took
about how
for them
terrible
to
that
actually
is?
Yes.
get believed.
The Republican
Free
social
Beacon was
media
reporting all
accounts
this
are
months
trolling
ago.
people on X and saying, if you voted for Platner, you voted for a rapist, which in fairness to the Platner voters, they didn't know about this accusation when they voted for him in the primary. There's just something very tone deaf when you've just rallied around Trump on every single thing to be doing this
the
on the
hypocrisy of
Republican
it.
account.
But I hope this is, frankly, I hope this
Living
is.
in glass houses. It's politics.
Yeah, but
Come on,
glass houses are
You
right.
shouldn't do that yourself.
Eric Swalwell,
You
Tony
shouldn't do that
Gonzalez.
yourself.
We have these.
And they're
We got
terrible.
rid of them.
And that's why they're gone.
Good.
But this is a bigger problem. The bigger problem was the premise that a lot of people supported Graham Platner around of trying to come to terms with this idea of maybe the Democrats should run the Republican game plan. That was what I always rejected about this. Like, Democrats have to stop holding everybody up to a purity test. Okay, I agree to some extent, But Nazi tattoo
100%.
was
I agree
one.
with you.
And then all of the rest of the signs all pointed to the fact that they were trying to run a bad play from the beginning.
All right, we're going to leave it there. We'll be right back after.
No, Abby. No. Don't leave it there. Like, this is my frustration. Scott Jennings, the smug little scumbag, he's built an entire career on selective outrage. And it took an independent Brad Polumbo to come on CNN Newsnight and hold the receipt up to his face. It took an independent, not Democrat, to do what Democrats should be doing. That's who it took. Now, yes, I know the lady before who is a Democrat. Yes, she kind of did, bring up the topic of it. Yes, I agree. But it was Brad Polumbo who really hammered it home. And I get it. I remember a comment from someone letting me know, like, when it comes to having a producer in your ear and they say you need to move on. I get it. I understand. But some moments, just like the one between Isaiah Martin and Lydia Moynihan, when she said that Barack Obama is a divisive president, you need to allow those moments to run because we need to hold these people to account. The Republican position now, when it comes to Graham Platner, is that what he done a number of years ago is disqualifying. But 34 felony convictions, 2 impeachments, a jury finding of sexual abuse is presidential material. When you say it out loud and you compare that to the standard that it is that these guys are setting for Graham Platner, it just collapses. It collapses in real time. And this is my frustration. And you know what? Listen, if you guys want, you guys can shoot me down for it. I don't believe that Graham Platner probably was a good person in the past. I don't. But I am genuinely sick and tired of this idea of when Republicans go low, Democrats must continue to go high, because this is what's happening. Did you hear what it is that the last individual said? I can't remember his name. I think he's the ginger guy with long hair. He said that, stop talking about Donald Trump. The American people voted for him. Okay, well, according to that logic, the people of Maine voted for Graham Platner. And the thing that's more frustrating for me is the fact that, like, he hasn't even been found guilty of anything yet. Donald Trump has. And these are the same people that want to try and tell us that character matters when it comes to a Democrat, but it completely evaporates the moment anyone says a word about Donald Trump. This is the tell every single time. Jennings will consistently sit there and recite Graham Platner's history, chapter and verse. But when you ask him to apply the exact same test, the exact same standard to Donald Trump, it suddenly turns into whataboutism. Oh, it's old news. Well, the voters decided. That isn't a standard. That's a weapon. And the frustration for me is this: Democrats keep falling for it. I genuinely believe whoever that it is that they put forward can go ahead and beat Susan Collins in the midterms. I genuinely hope that they can. But if not, I don't know what to say to you guys. And please, I hope none of you guys will unfollow me because of my opinion on this. I want to make it very clear. I don't think Graham Platner is a good individual. But utilizing the same logic that it is that Republicans use when it comes to Donald Trump, the people of Maine voted. They voted. And that's who they voted for. Honestly, so frustrating, man. So frustrating. Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below. See you guys in the next one.